What's up, investors? It's the Russian dude. Let's get straight to the point and talk about some ridiculous Russian propaganda. Okay, today we have a so-called Doombringer of NATO, which was created by the Russian propaganda, and it was transformed in the form of this plush big life-size doll. And long story short, this is how it looks. Guys, please take 10-15 seconds, calm down, chill. I know you're afraid. I know that this is the Doombringer of NATO. He will destroy the alliance single-handedly. Who am I kidding? Like, I don't even know how I keep finding this ridiculous stuff on the internet, but guys, well, there you go. Just let me know in the comments, would you bring it to your home, would you buy it, and what will you do specifically with this doll, which is supposedly should destroy your peaceful life. But okay, as always, time to get serious. First of all, I'm gonna give you a very quick update from the south, the consequences of this attack against Belbek Airfield. Then I'm gonna switch our attention to the east, where Ukrainians did initiate the counteroffensive in Kharkiv, at least the small one. And then it looks like that Putin declared a war against his own civilians. Why would he do it? So let's talk about those things right now. And so yeah, to begin with, you remember from my previous episode, there was a reported attack by Ukrainians using ATACMS against Belbek Airfield of Russians located on Crimean Peninsula. And well, apparently today we finally have the consequences, the results, which are confirmed by these satellite images. And reportedly, as you can see right here, at least 3 fighter jets of Russians, which are not yet identified specifically which ones are those, but these are either Sus or MiGs. So 3 of them were destroyed, and allegedly 1 oil depot of Russians was destroyed as well. And this is in addition to a radar, so a complex from the S-400. So as you can see, Ukrainians, besides being able to protect its eastern and northern borders, they are still causing a lot of trouble to Putin's forces in the south. That is why recently, approximately a month ago or so, some mass deportation activities they started to intensify in those specifically regions. Long story short, right here we do have a report by the British intelligence back from March, which was claiming that Russians were forcing those Ukrainians on occupied territories to take Russian citizenship, surrender Ukrainian passports and exchange them for Russian passports. According to the British intelligence report, which is according to the Russian propaganda, approximately 2.6 million Ukrainians already did it, which is the number that Russian propaganda forces, obviously. In reality, most likely it is way fewer people than this. But nevertheless, still there is some sort of deadline which was happening on July 1st, 2024, then those remaining Ukrainians on those occupied territories which do not yet surrender their Ukrainian citizenships and do not receive Russian passports, they might be subject for so-called mass deportation by the Z army. They will either have to find asylum in another country, in European one, in Poland, in Moldova, in any country they want, or Russia will claim them stateless people, which basically means they will absolutely not care about what to do with them next. Well, guys, let me know also down below in the comments, does this sound to you as Putin came to Ukraine to liberate its people? From who? This is the main question. And now, as promised, let's switch our attention to the east of Ukraine. And before we do this, guys, if you do like this style of daily news updating, if you don't mind, can you please like this video and subscribe to my channel? Helps tremendously with the algorithm and with my work. Also, if you do want to hear the stock market news from me as well, there is a second channel, Russian Dude Investing. There is already a new video. The link to my second channel is down below. And so yeah, so speaking about the situation in this right here, first of all is the video of a Russian T-80 modern tank in Avdiivka being fully, absolutely spread to atoms by a single Ukrainian FPV drone. And by the way, yeah, every single photo or video which I will be showing in today's episode, unfortunately I will still have to continue to censor it for YouTube not to flag my videos once again. But uncensored and full versions of this footage you guys will be able to find on my Patreon, the link is down below. Thank you so much for your support. Next we go to Vuhledar, and as you can see there is yet another turtle tank by Russians, which is supposedly needs to be protected from Ukrainian drones. Well, apparently it did not help either. And then, as to switch our attention to the most intense zone at the moment of recording this video, Kharkiv front line, Russians were trying to advance to another relatively big city called Liptsi. And so Ukrainians were able to successfully repel this attack, not letting Russians advance any meter at all. Then, speaking about the number one most intense city along Kharkiv frontline, Vovchansk, right now, according to Ukrainians fighting inside the settlement, they do claim that unfortunately Russians are getting very close to the borders of the city, and then there are even some small separate units of Russians who already fight inside Vovchansk. And then right here is the bird's eye view of the city, which, as you can see now, is does not even resemble city at all, unfortunately. But Ukrainians, they still hold their ground, and the main push, the major offensive of Russians against the city, which intensity was like 3 times higher a couple of days ago, this stage of the Russian offensive already passed, so right now Ukrainians, they do claim, at least according to the general staff of Ukraine, that the main offensive of Russians against Vovchansk was fully repelled. And because of this, reportedly also from Ukrainians fighting in this front line, they were even able to do some small counter-offensive along along Kharkiv front line. Specifically what they do claim is that they were able to push some small separate units of Russians away from Vovchansk, those who were trying to bypass the city. At the same time, according to the most recent report by the Institute for the Study of War, the total penetration of Russians through the border along Kharkiv frontline is now approximately 8 kilometers. And this, according to them, is this so-called buffer zone which Russians try to establish in order to protect neighboring regions, such as Belgorod and Kursk. But unfortunately, even more movements and assembly of Russian forces has been spotted to the north of Sumy region, which potentially hints us that this is the next place where Russians will try to attack. Once again, they were not able to achieve anything significant in Kharkiv, most likely they won't be able to achieve anything significant in Sumy either. So once again, this is just yet another confirmation that all of this is just a distraction for Ukrainians. But unfortunately, yet even more horrible things are happening right now as we speak, specifically in this Vovchansk city. According to Ukrainians, they do see, and whenever they are helping local residents to evacuate Vovchansk, you already guys remember the condition of this poor city. Russians prevent them from doing this. They do not allow civilians to evacuate, they forcefully detain them and they keep them inside the cities, most likely for propaganda purposes. Besides that, approximately since the beginning of January, several reports by the British intelligence reports and then also by Ukrainians that Russians were accidentally dropping FABs and CABs on their own civilian neighborhoods, such as, for example, in Belgorod. A lot of such reports started to come at a pretty steady pace. Approximately every week or two, something similar was happening. The most recent one happened this Monday, whenever another FAB literally just dropped for no reason in the middle of the parking lot in Belgorod region. And yes, just like mentioned previously, one of the very first reported and confirmed events like this happened only in the beginning of January. And then Russians, they did obviously claim that this was just a one-time mistake, this is not going to happen ever again, don't worry, this was just some kind of a malfunction. Well, this became pretty regular basis. Once again, every 2-3 weeks we have similar reports for this one-time event, so it makes me think that this is not an accident at all. The question I do have in my head right now is whether Putin really wants so much to blame Ukraine for everything that's happening, just to justify his special military operation. And for this, he's even ready to declare a war literally against civilians, because this is exactly what's happening. I do not think Ukrainians have access to these FABs and CABs that Russians are using, so there is no way Russian propaganda can turn this around. In the beginning of April, according to the governor of Belgorod region, Mr. Gladkov, he did claim that thousands of kids were evacuated from Belgorod. Well, these guys was just for the purposes of making the headlines, because the entire Belgorod region counts, if I'm not mistaken, millions of people, so 6,000 of them, I mean, at least something, but that's not even remotely close how many people need to be actually evacuated. And then, only 2 weeks later, according to some Kremlin inside sources, there was some reported activities of redeploying Wagner all the way from Africa to, guess where? Exactly, to Belgorod. So another question I do have, has this been done in order to prevent this evacuation? Did they do this to stop civilians trying to run away and save their lives, in order to contain the spread of the misinformation, so that Russia and Russia alone, the authorities of this country, I mean, can control the narrative of what is happening inside Belgorod? And guys, we've been following this war for more than 2 years at this point, so we perfectly well know exactly how the Putin's administration works in this case, so I would not be surprised if this is exactly our assumptions, what we are making. I will not be surprised if they turn out to be true. And speaking about the beginning of this war, right here I have a very interesting and relatively rare video, which is more than 8 minutes long, which shows the conversation between the President of France, Emmanuel Macron, and the President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, back in 2022, 4 days before this special military operation started. And this entire conversation is basically Putin justifying why he needs to go inside Ukraine in the near future. Remember guys, at that time there was still no war on the territory of Ukraine, so watching this video, which by the way this does have English subtitles for, like it's once again more than 8 minutes long, so watching this video in retrospective, knowing exactly what's going to happen, it's absolutely, it is just unbelievable and mind-blowing. Like these 8 minutes, it felt like just nothing. Full version of this video, guys, you will be able to find also on my Patreon as an extra chapter. I will just put the entire video on the screen, full screen. So if you want to see it for yourself, please go ahead and check my link down below. The Patreon link is down below once again. Thank you so much. This is the best way to support the channel. For this, as always, eternally grateful I am, guys, for your support. Well, there you have it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you like this style of daily news updates. Don't forget about my second channel, The Russian Dude Investing, and all the other useful links are down below. My PayPal, Patreon, Instagram, merch, hoodies, cases, pants, everything is down below. Thanks so much for watching. See you tomorrow.